Hi everybody, my name is Kateri Manley. I'm a local attorney and I was a participant in the Global March to Gaza in Egypt this summer, which was a very disappointing trip, but I'm still really glad I went, and I want to talk a little bit about that and then talk about the upcoming Global Samud Flotilla, which is the largest ever flotilla of boats trying to reach Gaza. So I put together a flyer about that. It's not a very professional looking flyer. I took a bunch of stuff from Instagram and stuck it on here, but if you're interested, it has a bunch of links and information on how you can get involved in supporting the flotilla and the parallel actions that are going along with it. So I'm going to put that over here on this table. All right, so maybe I should put my glasses on so I can look at my notes if I need them. I'm going to try to go quickly through the Global March to Gaza. It was back in May. I was at a conference in Minneapolis with the Coalition for Civil Freedoms that I've been involved with for a long time, that supports Muslims unfairly targeted for prosecution and
we need to carry conversations outside.
Yeah, exactly.
thank you.
Conversations out there, please.
So I was in a discussion with a few people and we were saying, oh, we should just march to Gaza, we got to do something more, we got to try something that hasn't been tried. And we weren't going to really organize that ourselves, we were all super busy. And then I got back, beginning of June, I think I found out actually somebody is organizing that. How can I not go at that point? Well, I didn't have the money for a plane ticket, but Steve Downs here paid the money for my plane ticket because he couldn't march. So thank you. And all of a sudden I was in these signal groups getting vetted, so to speak. It was very quick and rushed, and all of a sudden we were getting tickets and we were getting prepared, and there were 300 people in the US group, 4,000 people worldwide, and the plan was that we would fly to Cairo and then get on buses to cross the Suez checkpoint, theoretically, and get to a place called Al Arish, and then march for 3 days to Rafah and try to just put pressure on to break the siege, stop the killing, let the aid in, and actually show that we cared enough to go there. And we did care enough to go there as far as we could. Unfortunately, what happened is even before we got to the airport, we found out, we had asked the global leaders of this, Saif out of Spain, a Palestinian man with Spanish citizenship, and other leaders who started this, they had asked permission from Egypt many times, and Egypt had not said no to us. They were in an awkward position. They're saying they support Palestine, and yet they're not really. And yet it's also illegal for more than 4 people to get together in Egypt without permission. So we were asking for permission. We weren't trying to protest Egypt. We were trying to get to Rafah. And they didn't say any answer. So we thought we'll go as far as we can. Well, even before I left JFK, we were getting word that people were being stopped at the airport if they figured out they were with the group. So that was kind of a bad sign. And then they said, well, if you have one of the hotels we told you to get in central Cairo near Tahrir Square, don't use that hotel if you can avoid it, because people are being stopped there. So I was like trying to figure out, I don't usually use my phone for anything. So I was trying to I better change my hotel. Luckily I managed to change my hotel at the airport. And then I had to tell my roommate, who was somebody from Oakland who I didn't know before, but from the signal group, she was going to be my roommate. I was like, change of plans, this is the new hotel. And then coming through customs, I had camping equipment with me, and being a 62-year-old woman going to Cairo in June, it's a little odd to be camping, maybe young guys or even young women. It might not be quite as suspicious, so they were like, you're going to Rafah, aren't you? I'm like, what? But luckily I had booked a camping tour in the White Desert outside of Cairo, so I was like, look, I got it all planned out. I love desert camping. You're like, maybe, all right, they let me in, so, all right. So we got in, got to the hotel. The hotel was really hard to find, which is kind of good in a way, because, you know, they were detaining people a lot. We saw a bunch of people detained at the airport, and there was a protest going on at the airport. We had to kind of like pretend that we weren't with them, but we wanted to be, anyway. And then we were supposed to get on the buses the next day, but there was no way that was going to happen because it was too hot. Like, it was hot, but we were also, there was no way we could get together and get on those buses. We would have all been detained. So then the plan was to get cars, ride-up car or taxi, and get to a place called Ismailia, which is before the Suez checkpoint. And this is on June 13th. And so we got our cars. My group, because we were waiting for one person, we had 3 of us. We got there a little bit on the late end of when we were supposed to arrive. And it turns out that there was 2 checkpoints before Ismailia. There's so many checkpoints in Egypt. And we didn't even make it past the first checkpoint. Some people made it all the way to Ismailia. Some people made it to the second checkpoint. My little group, we only made it to the first checkpoint, and there was a huge protest going on at the first checkpoint. And we were like, oh great, we can at least protest with the group. So we were about to get out and do that, and then all of a sudden we get a message from Saif, one of the overall leaders, saying, actually, go back to Cairo, everybody's just getting detained. We don't want everybody to get detained and have their passports taken. So, oh man, I just so close to at least being with the group, but you know, we went back to Cairo, so I didn't get detained, which is, you know, it's okay. I didn't want to get detained, but everybody else who had stayed at that checkpoint got detained and driven around in buses. Everybody at the second checkpoint, they were going to camp there. They waited until it got dark. And then that was when these thugs that the Egyptian government uses to attack people came in and started beating them. Nobody got seriously injured, luckily, but they got all detained. Their passports were taken. But some of them never got their belongings back, so we all had our stuff with us. And the people in Ismailia, same thing, the smaller group, some got beaten, they all got detained. I have a bunch of videos that I can't show now, but they got detained. Everybody eventually made it back. Some people got deported, but most of the people made it back to Cairo by the next day. Some were dropped off at 3 a.m. outside of Cairo. So then we couldn't really get the group together after that. We were trying to organize ourselves better because we weren't really organized from this crazy, you know, preparation, really mad dash to get there. So we organized subgroups and international groups and representatives and all this. But then we were trying to get the group together, and there was no way we could do it. They started going after the leadership. So like Saif got detained, and he got beaten pretty badly, and we were really worried. We were pressuring the Spanish embassy. Eventually he got released, and he was like, yeah, they battered my body, but not my soul. But we couldn't do anything more in Egypt. We tried so hard. So then I had to leave and come back. Most people, I stayed a little longer because I couldn't change my ticket. They were trying to get people to leave earlier because everybody was being detained. But my hotel was safe enough. So I did make a couple of selfies while I was there, put on Instagram, but basically we couldn't do anything. We got together in small groups. And then some of the people managed to go to Tunis, and they had a meeting because at the same time that we were going on the global march to Gaza, there was a group called the Samud Convoy that was traveling by land across North Africa, from some people from Algeria, and then the main group leaving from Tunisia and going, and they made it halfway across Libya. The eastern Libyan government stopped them, so they got sent back. They didn't even make it to Egyptian border. But then they wanted to get together, and also this was the time when the Freedom Flotilla had just sent the Manley, and the Manley had been stopped, and Greta Thunberg and everybody had been deported. So there was a meeting in Tunis between the Freedom Flotilla, the Global March to Gaza, and the Samud Convoy. And out of that came what is now known as the Global Samud Flotilla. And that is the biggest ever flotilla of boats, like I was saying, and that's what the information on that flyer is, and that's what I'm working on now. I'm not going on a boat, I wish I was, but I'm staying here and doing support here in a legal group. let's see, there were Freedom Flotillas starting in 2008. It was the predecessor to the group, now the Freedom Flotilla. And we have 2 people on our boats now that were in the 2008 group, the Free Gaza movement, I believe it was, that actually made it to Gaza. And since then, people have not been making it there. They've been intercepted. But it'll be really interesting because I think the most that was in a flotilla before was maybe 8 or 9 boats at the most. Of course, there was the Mavi Marmara, that was a big boat, and a bunch of people got killed. Hopefully that won't happen this time, but we don't know what's going to happen. We have dozens of boats, 40 maybe, I don't know exactly how many boats. Maybe I'll find out more tomorrow because everything's happening fast now. The first boats are supposed to leave on August 31st, which is just over a week from now from Barcelona. And then the rest of the boats will be leaving from September 4th from Tunisia and other ports closer than Barcelona along the Mediterranean. And then they're gonna, I don't even know if they're gonna be like close together or more dispersed, what the strategy is for that. The U.S. was going to send 2 boats and is sending 1 veterans boat. So Vets for Peace and a bunch of veterans are on that boat, including Greg Stoker, who's a well-known, YouTuber or something. I hadn't heard of him, but he has a following. And then the other boat of U.S. citizens is actually going to be mixed. I just found out yesterday. Everything's like in flux. In order to protect other nationalities, they're going to divide up the U.S. citizens in a whole bunch of different boats. Even though the U.S. Embassy doesn't protect us, still the U.S. passport is kind of protective. Israel doesn't want to be seen as killing the citizens of their major benefactor, right? So the other U.S. citizens are going to be divided up between other boats. So I'm going to be on a support team for probably more than 1 boat. We'll find out all that. We're going to be monitoring those boats, in touch with the families, keeping track of what happens, supporting them after we expect that they'll be intercepted. It'll be really interesting to see what happens with like 40 boats instead of 5 or fewer. So that is coming up very soon, and there are some, I probably don't have a lot of time left, but there's a lot of parallel actions, we call it, in the U.S. and globally to support this. There's a hunger strike that's going on for 2 weeks from August 23rd, which is today, so it actually starts today. You could join it. You might not do the whole thing, but there's information on this flyer on that. It's actually, they're recommending calorie-restricted diet, not a complete liquid-only diet. And then there's International Days of Action on the Water. I did a little one at Lake George where we had 3 kayaks and the baby and flags and signs and just actions on the water in solidarity with the Global Samud Flotilla. And then a DC Week of Action from September 1st to 5th. And so there's a bunch of information on how you can get involved and support that on there. So it's kind of like what Venice was saying earlier of we have the international law. This is clearly illegal, what's going on. The U.S. is clearly violating the law too by being complicit in it, and nobody's enforcing it. And we need to push the envelope to try to enforce it, say we're bringing humanitarian aid. If we're bringing humanitarian aid and it's illegal for you to stop us, this blockade is illegal, all this stuff is illegal, and we're just trying to put more pressure really to get governments to do something, but we're doing everything we can because the governments aren't acting. So that's what I'm trying to do, and I hope you'll join with this or do any other actions that you can, because somebody's got to do something. We've all got to do something.